Hello there. For all my wanderers, beholders of curiosities or otherwise ghoulish fiends, take heed, and consider this a prelude, a warning, perhaps, before you choose to inquire thus further, as we venture into the world of horror, a world that is not as far or as different from ours as we like to think. A world that might never be understood and perhaps shouldn't be. Come and uncover with me tales of dread, chronicles of the uncanny, explorations into the strange and scary, and for all the things that go bump in the night. I am Vervaina Grimm, and this is Behind the Button Eye.
Today, we are traveling back to a wondrous land whose boundaries are that of imagination, the Twilight Zone. Living Doll, episode 126, or episode 6 of season 5, aired on November 1st, 1963. The episode begins with a mother, Annabelle. No, not that one. And her daughter, Christy, parking in front of their home. However, before they go in, Annabelle tells her daughter to run up to her room with her present and wait to show her father. They enter the house and are greeted by Eric, the father. He asks what they bought, and Annabelle says not much and turns to Christy to tell her to head upstairs. But Eric tells Christy to wait and asks what she's holding. Annabelle says that it's just a doll. Unhappy with this answer, Eric says that Christy doesn't need another doll. Annabelle attempts to defend buying the doll by explaining that Christy has been looking at this one for months, and then tells Christy to show the doll to Eric. She excitedly shows off her new doll and says the doll is alive and her name is Taki Tina. A small confession here. Before I began researching this episode, I thought the doll was called Talking Tina, not Taki Tina. Not a huge difference, I know, but Taki Tina just sounds wrong to me every time I say it. Anyways, Eric tries to argue that a doll like that would cost a lot, and Annabelle tries to defuse the situation again and say that she put it on the account. Christy winds Taki Tina up and the doll begins to move and says her signature phrase.
My name is Taki Tina, and I love you very much.
Again, Eric asks how much it cost, and again, Annabelle tries to say she put it on the account, but Eric interrupts her saying that he already knows that, but wants to know how much it was. Annabelle tells him to stop, but he tries asking again. Annabelle then says that she thinks it's not the price of the doll that's upsetting him. Eric crudely laughs and says that sounds like some of the, quote, other Freudian gibberish from Christy's doctor. Annabelle says that it isn't Dr. Lubin's fault that Christy feels rejected. Immediately, Eric's face drops at that comment and begins to look angry. Taki Tina starts talking again, so Eric takes his anger out on the doll and daughter and snappily tells Christy to shut that thing off. In response, Christy leaves the doll and runs upstairs. Annabelle, upset, asks Eric, "How could you?" and follows her daughter. The doll stops moving and Eric goes over, picks it up, and winds it up. Taki Tina doesn't quite say the same loving phrase as she did before.
My name is Taki Tina, and I don't think I like you.
Eric is visibly confused and winds the doll up again. This time, Taki Tina says she thinks she could even hate Eric. In response, he throws the doll against the wall and, if Taki Tina was already feeling iffy about Eric, him throwing her at the wall was definitely going to help with that. Now, Taki Tina says that he'll be sorry. Annabelle comes back downstairs and asks him why he threw the doll. He replies that he doesn't like what the doll says, but Annabelle says that he didn't have to throw it. He tries showing Annabelle what the doll said previously by winding it up again, but this time, it says its normal phrase. He tries explaining that was not what the doll said before when she was upstairs. Annabelle says that she's not sure how much more of his anger towards Christy she can take, and that she knows he's having a hard time adjusting to her, but that she can't let him treat Christy this way. That Christy is her daughter and she loves her. Eric definitely doesn't take this seriously at all and chooses instead to mock Annabelle with her "love her" comment. He accuses Annabelle of saying that he's only Christy's stepfather and that he's incapable of loving children because they can't have any of their own. Annabelle defends herself that that wasn't what she was saying at all, and then tries pleading with him to try to love Christy, and that her and Christy will do anything to make him happy. Speaking of Christy, she comes back downstairs and apologizes to Eric if she made him mad. He says it's all right and that it's his fault. Annabelle gives Christy her doll and she goes back upstairs. Later on, at dinner, Christy is play-feeding the doll and Eric tells her to eat her own dinner. Without anyone else noticing, Talkie Tina winks at Eric. He says to Christy that he didn't know that her doll could wink, and she says that it can't wink. Instead of confronting it further, he dismisses it, then asks the mom where they bought the doll. Annabelle says where, and that she thought the doll would be a good playmate for Christy. Eric takes this as a personal attack about how they haven't been able to have a kid, thus providing a sibling for the daughter. Then, the doorbell rings, and it's one of Christy's friends. She goes out to play with said friend and leaves the doll at the table. Annabelle starts clearing up the table, and when she's out of the room, the doll says to Eric,
My name is Talkie Tina, and I'm beginning to hate you.
Instead of being freaked out, Eric chooses the so very wise decision of mocking the doll by saying his full name and that he's going to get rid of it. Talkie Tina says that he wouldn't dare, and Eric sets her on the table and asks, wouldn't I? Talkie Tina says that Annabelle and Christy would hate him, and she would hate him too. Eric just laughs, which is definitely a choice. Annabelle comes back in to keep clearing the table and looks at him like he's crazy, and he just brushes it off, that he's just curious to see how the doll works. She leaves the room again and he starts to light a cigarette, but taunts the doll with a match, even putting the flame against her face. Talkie Tina does respond like it hurts her, prompting Eric to ask if she has feelings. She asks, doesn't everything? Eric concludes that he can't hurt her then, and Talkie Tina says the most bone-chilling response, not really, but I could hurt you. I guess Talkie Tina should do a stand-up special because this causes Eric to laugh again. Annabelle enters the room again and asks who Eric is talking to. He tells her that the game is over and roughly hands the doll to her. Annabelle is rather confused by what he's talking about. Apparently, Eric believes that Annabelle put a walkie-talkie or something in the doll. Annabelle has no idea what he's talking about. Before this conversation, or really interrogation, can continue further, Christy comes back in and says that her friend wants to see the doll. Annabelle hands her the doll and Christy heads back out. They continue their previous conversation before Christy came in, and Annabelle says that he can think whatever he wants to, but that it's not true. Eric still doesn't believe her, and says he knows there's a microphone somewhere in the house, and that he thinks Annabelle and Christy are trying to, quote, get even with him. Although she looks in disbelief, she eventually comes to the realization that Eric is actually serious. This in turn makes him more angry and demands her to tell him the truth. Annabelle again tries to convince him that there is nothing to tell. He dismisses her and says that she can keep her secret, and then mocks Talkie Tina's "but you'll be sorry" line as he leaves. Eric heads to the garage looking for Christy, but finds the doll alone in there. He picks Talkie Tina up, intending to throw her away in the garbage can. She tells him that he is going to be sorry. Instead of listening to her warning, he rather gleefully drops her in and heads back inside. Later on, Eric is cracking nuts on the couch, and Christy asks him where her doll is. He lies and says he wouldn't know and tells her to ask her mother. On cue, Annabelle enters the room and says that Christy has already asked her, and she doesn't know where she is. They ask Eric again if he knows where Talkie Tina is, and he lies again and denies any knowledge of where the doll could be. Annabelle and Christy decide to go search for her, and Eric continues to crack nuts and act all giddy. The phone rings, and it's Talkie Tina saying she is going to kill him. He tries asking who is on the phone, even though, hey, Talkie Tina literally said, "My name is Talkie Tina," before she made her death threat. Eric goes back to the garage and discovers that the doll is not in the garbage can anymore. He leaves and calls for Annabelle, and when she comes downstairs, he demands to know where she is. Annabelle thinks he means Christy, but he means the doll. Eric rants about knowing that Annabelle knew he put the doll in the garbage can, and that the doll is not there now, and that Annabelle has carried this joke too far, that she and Christy need to stop. Annabelle swears she hasn't seen the doll since dinner. A bit more calmly, he asks if she's telling the truth, and Annabelle reaffirms that she didn't take the doll, but thinks that it's awful that he threw it away. Eric doesn't really pay attention to what she just said and is more confused on who made the phone call. This also confuses Annabelle when he brings it up. Eric tells her what happened, about the phone call and the doll's voice on the other line. Eric determines that if it wasn't Annabelle, then it had to be Christy behind this. This realization causes him to go upstairs into Christy's room. Christy is asleep with Talkie Tina right next to her. As he walks in, the doll's eyes open and says that she told him he'd be sorry. Then says, "Wake up, Christy." Christy wakes up confused, and Eric tells her to go back to bed. Christy says she wants her mother and Tina as Eric takes Tina away. Annabelle comes in and Eric tells her that Tina was in Christy's bed, so it's proof that she has been the one behind everything. Christy is crying and pleading to Eric, but he snaps at her and says that he's not her father. He leaves the room and Annabelle comforts Christy. Intent on destroying the doll, Eric takes it to the garage. He simply says to the doll, "Die." And she says that he'll die, then laughs. He tries crushing her head and she stays silent. A bit perplexed, he says he thought she said she could feel. Then Talkie Tina says probably the most unnerving thing yet, which says a lot, frankly. "I can stand this if you can," and again laughs. With every attempt to damage the doll, she just continues to laugh. He tries to saw through her neck, but it doesn't work. Annabelle comes in and tries to stop him, but he pushes her away. She leaves. He looks at the doll's neck, and there's not even a mark. Running out of ideas, he stuffs the doll in a bag, tying a rope around the neck, puts it back in the garbage can, but piles cement blocks on top this time. Eric then goes upstairs to see Annabelle packing a suitcase. Annabelle says she's leaving, because how could she live with him after what he's done, and that he did it to show his hatred towards her and Christy. Eric tries to convince her that the doll talked to him and said things, quote, "no doll should say," and that he had to get rid of it. Annabelle says that he has become a sick stranger to her, that's blinded by unreasonable hate, and that he should see a psychiatrist. In disbelief, he sits on the bed, saying that he couldn't have imagined it. Then, in defeat, he says he will give the doll back to Christy if that'll solve things between them. Eric goes back to the garage to get the doll, and when he uncovers it, Tina says she doesn't forgive him. He furiously whispers to the doll to shut up. Eric goes back upstairs to the daughter's room and silently gives the doll back to Christy and leaves. Later on, while Eric is sleeping, he is woken up by the mechanical noises the doll makes. Annabelle also wakes up and is confused by Eric saying he heard something. He gets up to investigate and tells her to stay in the room. The mechanical doll sound starts again when he enters the hallway, so he checks Christy's room. However, Talkie Tina is not in Christy's room. He leaves and starts heading down the stairs, but steps on the doll, causing him to trip and fall. Talkie Tina falls down right next to his face, and Eric dies. Annabelle screams his name as she rushes down the stairs to him. Then, to Annabelle's horror, Talkie Tina tells her that she'd better be nice to her, which causes her to drop the doll in shock. Richard C. Sarifian was the director of this episode. Originally from New York, He was an Armenian-American film director, actor, and writer with a career that spanned over 5 decades. He is probably best known for being the director of the 1971 film Vanishing Point. In fact, the car chase sequence from that movie was the inspiration for Quentin Tarantino's 2007 film Death Proof. He passed away in 2013 at the age of 83. Besides Rod Serling, there are 2 main writers for this episode, Charles Beaumont and Jerry Sohl. Now, this wasn't typical co-writing, but I'll get to that soon. Charles Beaumont was born in Chicago and was known for being a fiction author, especially his science fiction and horror works. He is credited for writing around 22 episodes for The Twilight Zone, such as The Howling Man, Printer's Devil, Miniature, Static, and Number 12 Looks Just Like You. He was admired by his colleagues. Novelist Dean Koontz said that Beaumont, quote, was one of the seminal influences on writers of the fantastic and macabre, end quote. One of the short stories he was known for was The Crooked Man, which was a dystopian sci-fi set 500 years in the future where heterosexuality was outlawed and homosexuality was the norm. The piece was a critique of homophobia and was originally rejected by Esquire for publication. However, Playboy didn't reject it and published it in 1955. In 1963, Beaumont was 34 and started to suffer the effects of what was deemed at the time a mysterious brain disease. It turns out that he was experiencing early onset Alzheimer's disease and Pick's disease. In the last 3 years of his life, it became virtually impossible for him to complete his writing commitments. Thus, he had some friends that would sometimes complete his work as a ghostwriter. Unfortunately, Beaumont passed away at only 38 years old. Jerry Sohl, originally from California, was known as a television scriptwriter and science fiction author. Besides The Twilight Zone, he also wrote for shows such as Alfred Hitchcock Presents and Star Trek: The Original Series. When Beaumont's condition kept worsening, Sohl ghost-wrote 3 Twilight Zone episodes for him. Besides Living Doll, he also ghost-wrote Queen of the Nile and The New Exhibit. Although Sohl was not credited for the episodes, Beaumont insisted on splitting the fees for each episode. I know that some of you watching might ask why I still list Charles Beaumont as a writer for this episode. For one, it isn't clear to the extent of how much Beaumont wrote or Sohl, but I think more importantly is that these stories are still Beaumont's creations. They are from his imagination, his mind. They are both deserving of being credited. Jerry Sohl passed away in 2002 at the age of 88. There are 4 main stars featured in this episode. Telly Savalas plays Eric in Living Doll. Originally from New York, he was a Greek-American actor and also a singer. He is probably most known for Kojak, a 1970s crime drama TV show. When looking into him, the immeasurable amount of times he is referred to as being iconically bald was amazing. He passed away in 1994 at 72. Mary LaRoche plays the mother, Annabelle, in this episode. Also from New York, she was primarily known as being an actress and a singer. Besides Living Doll, she also appears in another Twilight Zone episode called A World of His Own. She was involved in Broadway theater and other TV shows like Perry Mason and the Alfred Hitchcock Hour. However, she is probably best known for her roles in Bye Bye Birdie and Gidget. She passed away in 1999 at 78. Tracy Stratford plays the daughter, Christy. At the time of this video, she is currently 69 years old. Besides Living Doll, she was in another Twilight Zone episode from the 3rd season called Little Girl Lost. Besides her roles in the Twilight Zone, another remarkable role she did was the voice of Lucy in A Charlie Brown Christmas. In a 2018 interview, she talked about her experience playing Christy in the Living Doll episode and about Telly Savalas specifically. I was scared, really, of Telly Savalas. He was intense to act opposite and pretty intimidating, and the fact that he was playing a bad guy didn't much help. I believe he really lived his role while he was working. June Foray was unaccredited for her role as the voice for Talkie Tina. Born in Massachusetts, she was primarily known as a voice actress and radio personality. You might know her for some of her other voice work, such as Lucifer the Cat in Cinderella, Grandmother Fa in Mulan, and Cindy Lou Who in How the Grinch Stole Christmas. She also did the voice for Mattel's Chatty Cathy doll in 1960. In fact, Talking Tina was modeled after Chatty Cathy. She was an advocate for honoring animation and was a huge part in the creation of the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature in 2001. She also has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame for her voice work. Besides her role in Living Doll, she also is uncredited as the voice of Mary Badham's character in the Twilight Zone's episode The Bewitching Pool in 1964. She passed away in 2017 at 99. It's no secret that dolls have been known to creep people out. I think even without all the media of killer or sinister dolls, people would still think that they're kind of creepy. In 2013, psychologist Frank McAndrew and graduate student Sarah Cohn published a paper that delved into what creepiness meant. The paper also included a survey on what creeps people out, with more than 1,300 participants. Doll collecting was considered one of the, quote, creepiest hobbies. This particularly tickled me because even though I do not own baby dolls like Talkie Tina, much to the dismay of my partner, I do have a doll collection. When it comes to people being creeped out by dolls, McAndrew expressed the following: "You're getting mixed messages. If something is clearly frightening, you scream, you run away. If something is disgusting, you know how to act. But if something is creepy, it might be dangerous, but you're not sure it is. There's an ambivalence." He continued on. "It really focuses your attention and helps you process any relevant information to help you decide whether there is something to be afraid of or not. I really think creepiness is where we respond in situations where we don't have enough information to respond, but we have enough to put us on guard." This creepiness relates to the uncanny. Uncanny is typically described as strange or mysterious, often in a way that is slightly frightening, or according to Wikipedia, the psychological experience of an event or thing that is unsettling in a way that feels oddly familiar, rather than simply mysterious. Jacques Lacan, a psychoanalytic theorist, is quoted as saying that the uncanny puts us, quote, in the field where we do not know how to distinguish bad and good, pleasure from displeasure, end quote. He explains that this leads to anxiety and feeling unnerved. Dolls are familiar, partly because we may think of childhood and innocence, but also they are familiar because they look like people, but not fully. They have a lot of the same characteristics, but we know that they aren't people. We know that they aren't alive, and the contrast between all of this is uncanny, and thus creepy. Not quite human, but not purely just an object because of the familiarity. In a Huffington Post article, John Leonetti, director of the 2014 Annabelle movie, said, "If you think about them, most dolls are emulating a human figure, but they're missing one big thing, which is emotion. So, they're shells. It's a natural psychological and justifiable vehicle for demons to take it over. If you look at a doll in its eyes, it just stares. That's creepy. They're hollow inside. That space needs to be filled." I think Twilight Zone's Living Doll episode does an incredibly effective job of accentuating the uncanny. We never see Talkie Tina run around or hold a weapon or anything of the like. Granted, the production was of course limited in their abilities of possible effects for the time and budget. However, this ultimately makes Talkie Tina more unnerving, partly because there is so much uncertainty to what she does, and in pretty much every way we do see, she is just being a doll. Her movements are not fluid and free-flowing. Her speech is still the same voice as her regular recorded lines. But a lot of what she does say is like how Eric points out multiple times in the episode. Things a doll shouldn't say. Even in the opening narration, she is described as being a lifelike creation of plastic and springs and painted smile. The familiarity of her being a classic doll, and on top of that being modeled after a highly popular doll of the time, Chatty Cathy, mixed with the threats is just the ultimate uncanny treat. Throughout the episode, we are shown husband and so-called father, Eric, being pretty abusive, especially towards Christy. In a lot of ways, even though he is technically the protagonist, he's not exactly someone that the audience is rooting for. In fact, I think a lot of people, especially on first viewing, are on Taki Tina's side, even though most probably still consider her creepy and not something they'd ever want to encounter personally. Some would probably consider Taki Tina to even be protecting Christy against Eric. This is even mentioned in the closing narration of the episode. Of course, we all know dolls can't really talk, and they certainly can't commit murder. But to a child caught in the middle of turmoil and conflict, a doll can become many things: friend, defender, guardian, especially a doll like Taki Tina, who did talk and did commit murder in the misty region of the Twilight Zone. However, I'm not completely convinced that Taki Tina is Christy's savior or guardian angel. Tina never makes it clear that her aversion to Eric is because of his treatment of Christy. I think that is a small part, but I think overall it's more that Tina doesn't like his treatment towards her. At the end of the episode, Taki Tina reveals her true nature to Annabelle by basically threatening her to be nice to her. Otherwise, she'll end up more or less like Eric. Annabelle wasn't abusive towards Christy. An argument could be made that she kind of stood by while Eric was cruel to Christy. However, she was planning on leaving him because of said cruelty. Which, let me take a second here to say something incredibly important. If you are ever in an abusive situation and you're planning on leaving, do not leave when said person or individuals are around. Annabelle packing up a suitcase and telling Eric she's going to leave him is dangerous. Do not let said person or individuals know that you plan on leaving, and pack your stuff and leave when they are not around. I think Taki Tina is just another type of abuser. Who's to say that if Christy stopped loving the doll, just simply wasn't as nice to her as Tina wanted her to be, or even when she just outgrows her, that Tina wouldn't start saying the same old song and dance to her too. It unfortunately makes sense that Christy, having been verbally berated by her stepfather, seeks comfort elsewhere, and unbeknownst to her, that being someone or something that isn't actually as friendly as they appear to her. I don't think Taki Tina's motivations for punishing Eric are to be protective of Christy, but to herself. And if anything, the depths and specifics of her motivations are pretty unclear. She deemed Eric to be mean, especially viewed him as being mean to her, and for that, she hates him and he must die. I think the simplistic yet vague perspective Taki Tina has when it comes to people she likes and dislikes is another facet to the uncanniness of her. The basics of her reasonings are quite childlike, except that what she deems as a worthy response of retaliation is literally to murder, all in which makes her ever more terrifying. Taki Tina, whether you consider her a friend or foe, is definitely one you would not want to cross. Of course, for the fact that she's a murdering doll, but for some, simply because she is a doll. If you ever see the signpost up ahead stating Twilight Zone, probably best to turn around. Otherwise, you may be forced to be over-the-top nice to a doll with a kill count. Thank you all for whoever made it to the end of this video. I really appreciate everyone who spends any part of their day watching and listening to me ramble. If you enjoyed the video, please give a like or comment, and if you want to see more videos like this, I'd greatly appreciate it if you'd subscribe to this channel. Let me know your thoughts about this Twilight Zone episode, and if there's any other episodes you would like me to cover. Thank you for venturing with me into the world of horror. Farewell and safe departures, my little ghouls, and happy holidays.